We welcome you to another Sunday School lesson. Sunday School is a blessing and gift from God. For many years, the kingdom of Judah continued in sin and became more unfaithful to the Lord. But because God loved them, He sent prophets to correct them more than once, but the people made fun of them and refused to listen. God declared that His people was disobedient and removed them from the promised land. Although God had disciplined the children of Israel for their disobedience and idolatry, He always had their restoration in mind. Through Isaiah, the Lord declared images of reversal, such as the ruined land once again thriving and the depleted population coming to exceed the space available inside their borders. Isaiah prophesied that the nation of Israel would return and be prosperous. God would bring other nations to give tribute to His people, once more lifting up all those who put their hope in Him. Our first verse says, "Lift up your eyes and look around, all your children gather and come to you. As surely as I live, declares the Lord, you will wear them all as ornaments, you will put them on, like a bride." Prior to their return to Judah, God's people were in mourning with bowed heads over being forced out from their land. But now that the captivity was over, Isaiah was telling Jerusalem to lift up her eyes and pay attention to all the exiled Jews who were returning to Jerusalem. God promised that Jerusalem will surely clothe herself with these returning exiles like ornaments or jewels, just like a bride adorns herself with jewels. The population which Jerusalem recovers once more, will be to her like the ornaments which a woman puts on, around her wedding dress. In verse 19, God continued to say to Zion, "Though you were ruined and made desolate and your land laid waste, now you will be too small for your people, and those who devoured you will be far away." The land of Judah, especially Jerusalem, which had been made desolate and laid waste because most of the people were in captivity by the Babylonians, will one day be too small to contain all her returning people. After 70 years of lying waste, Zion will be so overpopulated that there will not be enough room for all the inhabitants when the exiles returned. Not only would the land be repopulated, Isaiah also prophesied that the Babylonians who destroyed her and took possession of her land, shall lose their power when they themselves will be conquered by the Persians. The Babylonians will be too far away and weak, and would never be a threat to Jerusalem again. Verse 20 says, "The children born during your bereavement will yet say in your hearing, 'This place is too small for us, give us more space to live in.'" Jerusalem lost many of her children or inhabitants, by the sword, famine, and captivity. The captives shall have a new family that grew up in Babylon and will return to Jerusalem. The children of the Jews who will return to Jerusalem after the Babylonian captivity shall complain about the lack of room in Jerusalem, and they will say the place is too small. In other words, they will say our numbers have increased so fast that this land is too small. Give us a bigger place to live in. But as the Lord brings the sons of Zion back to Israel, they will fill the land in a glorious way. Verse 21 says, "Then you will say in your heart, 'Who bore me these? I was bereaved and barren, I was exiled and rejected. Who brought these up? I was left all alone, but these, where have they come from?'" Isaiah envisions Jerusalem will be confused about her new situation. So, in response to what the returning exiles said in the previous verse, Isaiah prophesied that Zion will say in her heart, "Who bore me these children, these returning exiles, for my children have been taken away from me and I am desolate or barren, an exile and a wanderer." As a result of the captivity, the Jewish nation had been taken away, they were cut off. Jerusalem had become desolate, the city was without the Ark of the Covenant, and any altar and temple service which were tokens of God's relationship to them. Zion had also been captive, and her children were continually moving to and fro, in an unsettled condition. Isaiah said that Zion will also ask who has raised these exiles. Indeed, I was left alone by the captivity, and where did these people come from? Verse 22 says, "This is what the sovereign Lord says, see, I will beckon to the nations, I will lift up my banner to the peoples, they will bring your sons in their arms and carry your daughters on their hips." The return to Israel by the exiles will be accomplished with the help of Gentiles. Isaiah said the Lord will call the Gentile nations to do his will. God will invite the Gentile nations to come to him both to do his will regarding Zion, as well as welcoming them into his future family, the church. God, lifting his hands out to the Gentiles may also denote the exerting of God's power of his Spirit and grace, to compel them to come to him, and they be willing to do so. God will provide a sign for everyone to see. When God enlists the help of the Gentiles in fulfilling this prophecy concerning Zion and the returning exiles, God said, "And they, the Gentiles, most notably the Persians, will help the sons, the returning exiles of Zion, to return to Zion by carrying them on their shoulders." The Gentiles would help the Jews return with the same tenderness that a parent shows to a child who is weak and helpless, holding them in their arms and carrying them on their shoulders. This imagery reveals how God can, and did raise up friends among the Gentiles to help the returning Israelites. Our final verse says, "Kings will be your foster fathers, and their queens your nursing mothers. They will bow down before you with their faces to the ground, they will lick the dust at your feet. Then you will know that I am the Lord, those who hope in me will not be disappointed." Still using the imagery of caring parents to show just how God had reversed the roles of Israel and the Gentile kings and queens, instead of the captive Jews taking care of the Babylonian children, God said that kings shall be your foster fathers, and their queens your nursing mothers. The Persian kings would help the exiles return by providing whatever they needed to make the trip home. God also said that the kings and queens shall bow down to Zion with their face toward the ground, and lick up the dust of your feet. When all of this takes place, God also said to Zion, "You will know that I am the Lord, those who hope in me will not be disappointed." The things that Isaiah prophesied in this text were so unbelievable that when they happened, God said that Jerusalem and her inhabitants would without a doubt know that I am the Lord. No human or anything, especially false gods, could cause these events to take place, much less predict centuries earlier that they would. Only the Lord, Jehovah, could do it. In the last part of this verse, God said, "For they shall not be disappointed that wait for me." Anyone who waits or hopes expectantly for him will not be disappointed. Of course, anyone who has ever waited on the Lord to intervene in their situations, knows that waiting is not easy, it takes faith. But if we wait or hope patiently, we can rest assured that God's will for us will be done, and it will be right and good, just as it will be for Jerusalem. One day the greatest in the nation will love and care for the children of the church. God's people shall prosper. This lesson revealed that although the Babylonian captivity had not yet taken place, God had already provided for Israel's deliverance. Not only did he provide for their deliverance, he would use Gentiles to help his people return to Zion, or Jerusalem. And when they returned, God also promised that they would prosper, for kings and queens would bow before them. A lot of what Isaiah prophesied is still future, but we can rest assured that God will bring it all to pass, and when he does, just as he declared, the world will know that I am the Lord. God's people shall prosper. 1. When God swears by himself, we can expect whatever he promises to come to pass, Isaiah 49:18. God can be trusted. To activate God's promises in your life, we need to be fully convinced that his word is true, and what he has promised is his will for your life. 2. The Lord can replace whatever our enemies take from us and also remove them from our presence, Isaiah 49:19. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but God brings full restoration. He is indeed the God of the turnaround. 3. If we are in God's will, He will bless us in ways we would never expect. Isaiah 49:20-21. The challenge is for us to see His provision and care, even when it is different than we expect. Because God is God, His ways are higher than our ways. 4. God can turn our enemies into our friends. Isaiah 49:22. God, through Christ, changed us from enemies into His friends and gave us the task of cooperating in making our enemies His friends also. 5. It is nothing for God to put us in charge of those who once ruled us. Isaiah 49:23. But God also holds those He put in charge to honor Him with the authority He gives them. We are truly glad you spent time to learn this lesson with us. We hope you are blessed and may share these with somebody else. Thank you very much, have a great week, and God bless you always, dear brothers and sisters.